Ooh, what's up, all you doodles and doodlers, you schemers and dreamers out there, and welcome back to another episode of Doodle Talk. This is episode 44. We're going strong. 44 is a great number. Yeah, come on in, have a seat, grab an espresso. You look a little tired. You look like you might have had a long day already, or you might be just waking up. Wherever you are in this great wide world, in the cosmos flowing through space on a speck of dust known as the Earth, you look a little tired. So grab yourself an espresso, decaf or calf. No lattes, don't mix it with anything. Just grab yourself an espresso or club soda or something, something nice, something simple. Have a seat over there and let's get started, because we got a good one today. I think today is going to be a little bit shorter. I know I always say that, but I actually think this one might be a little bit shorter. But yeah, just jumping right in. Got a few art things to go over, which is nice and fun. I finished the Akira slide. It's done. I'm calling it the Akira power slide because it's like, I made it like a skateboarder doing a power slide. And I was like, how did I not see that from the start? And you see it halfway through. I'm glad I recognized it, and it's a nice name for that, but it's like, man. So I'm super stoked on that. It turned out pretty cool. Overall, super happy with it. I did it pretty quickly too. I think like once I started, I might be wrong, but it was about a week, working on it here or there in my free time. So not bad for like as far as like some recent projects have gone, as far as how long they've taken me. And yeah, overall super happy with it. I wasn't able to get like as fun and experimental with like the actual way I animated it, but yeah, man, it was cool. I finished it up, and then I was like, you know what, let me see if I can throw in the sound and stuff too. So I layered it up a bunch of different sounds, because I just pulled the actual like Akira the video, like the actual scene, the Akira slide thing. I pulled the audio from that and mixed it in with some like actual like skateboarding power slide sounds and some other stuff, because there's like the electricity that's like that like goes around too. I had a lot of fun. Like sound design is so cool, and you can get so intricate with it, and like you don't notice how much of a change it really makes until you do it, or you edit something with sounds, like external sounds like that are not actually there, and man, it's just so cool. Animation is the coolest, man. It really is. It's just like putting sound and images, moving images together, making a video. It's like there's nothing cooler to me than animation and like sound and music in animation. That's the hill I'll die on. That's my opinion that nobody asked for. But yeah, Akira slide is done. If you haven't seen Akira, you should go watch the movie. It still holds up. I think I watched it, a few years ago for the last time. And that was I had only ever seen it like in one sitting, like once or twice. And the first time I watched it like all the way through, again recently, was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, but it's still so amazing. And I haven't read the manga. It's something I really want to do. It's one of those ones I'm kind of saving for a nice rainy day when I really just want to dive in and get the rest of it, because like the Nausicaa manga is so much better than the movie in my opinion, for the most part. And I've heard from a lot of people and some friends that the Akira manga is really good too, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, I'll be showing it too. I don't know when I'm posting it. If I've already posted it, I'll throw it up on here. If not, I'll probably try and show it again. But yeah, really, really proud, really happy with it. And I think this was a good thing to kind of get me back in the gear, coming back from taking a little vacation and, kind of getting back in the swing of things, making art and all that good stuff, because, yeah, I'm trying to do a little bit of like kind of experimenting with a bunch of stuff while also making like really just normal solid YouTube videos, which I think I found the next kind of like thing that I need to try. Because, you know, over the past year, I really only have started taking YouTube seriously since it's been almost a year. I'd say the Doodle Talk started right before the end of the year, last year, like right around New Year's, right before New Year's. I think Christmas was like the first episode. I looked it up the other day. So we're getting close to the 1-year anniversary of Doodle Talk, which is going to be really cool. But yeah, and then like I'd say slightly after that is when I started taking YouTube a little bit more seriously, like trying to make actual like art and like normal YouTube videos. And this whole time, you know, so it's been about like 10 months. It's easier to just say it like that, right? And in this 10 months, I've been really kind of experimenting, going back and forth on a few things, trying different things out. And it's really, you know, it's been fun. I've learned a lot. Obviously, I think my own like production skills and my ability to like speak on camera or like talk to my fucking self for an hour plus at times. I think I've improved on that a lot. Hopefully you would say the same. I watched, I don't want to get into this because I'm going to talk about this on the anniversary episode, but I did watch a lot of that first like episode back. It's so funny. Hold on. I'm not going to talk about it. I want to save everything for like the anniversary episode, but it's pretty funny. Like if you want to, I mean, it's not like it's terrible or anything, but it's just funny seeing how I was talking. It's weird, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like getting used to just talking to yourself for an extended period of time is really hard. And I know I've said this before, but if you've ever wanted to try something like this, you really should, because the faster you start it and just start getting better at it, like it's just, you're gonna be better off for it, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it's a skill. Talking to yourself is a skill, and I'd like to think that I'm getting better at it. But back to what I was talking about, of like just, you know, trying a bunch of things out here and there, seeing that this worked, oh, this didn't work, and I'm coming to a point where it's like, okay, there's like maybe a few other kind of avenues from what I've already kind of thought of already. And one of the things that I noticed was that I was kind of like trying a bunch of things out, but like almost like half-assing some of it, or like spreading myself too thin, or like thinking like, oh, I'll just make these art videos or this art stuff, and then I'll find some magical free time to like do these other projects that I want to work on, right? And wouldn't you know, it turns out that that's like almost impossible, especially when you're working full-time on the side, or like you're working full-time and the art stuff is on the side, right? So, and I touched on this, I think, in the last episode, is that I'm kind of coming to this point where I'm just like, fuck it, man. I really want to just like kind of go all in on like just make a lot of the stuff that I really want to make, and like quit half-assing a few things, and like really give myself some challenges, and to kind of stick with it for a little while, as far as like making some of this other kind of content, this other kind of art and stuff, and not feeling pressured to have the art side of things also be the videos that I'm posting on YouTube. I think that's actually what I was trying to say this whole time, is like I was getting stuck in this place of being like, for example, like if I was making I made that little like Ghibli, the no face, the Spirited Away like no face animation where he kind of walks across the screen, and I tried to make a video out of it, and it made the whole process like so much harder. And I know that some people are good at this, so I'm not saying this is like, I'm not ever gonna say this is a bad thing to do. I mean, a lot of people do this, where like the art they make the video around it, and it's awesome. But it wasn't really working for me, because it was like splitting up some of the, I don't know, it made both things worse by trying to do it that way, instead of just instead of just fully focusing on maybe the Spirited Away, like the no face animation, making it better or longer or whatever, what have you, and not worrying about the video, or vice versa, like spending more time, a lot longer, to make like a fully like fleshed out video and stuff like that. And part of it, I think, is like, you know, you got to try it. You know, like the first time you do something like that, it's not going to be amazing. So you can't just chalk it up to like, oh, that doesn't work, I'm not going to do that anymore. But I do feel like there was a reason, like when I made the Boy with the Broken Sword comic, why I ended up like, I got to the point where I was like, okay, I could make a video out of this. And same thing with the Akira slide. Like I finished and was like, all right, how would I make this into like an engaging, fun video? And like, if I can't figure it out, I'm not gonna try. That's what I'm trying to say as well. Is like, or if I don't feel naturally that I can like, put out something that I'd be proud of in that respect, like I'm not gonna force myself to make it. Like I was saying, like the Boy with the Broken Sword, I ended up just doing kind of a process, kind of time-lapse video for it, which I think is still okay. And like, obviously not a ton of people watched it, but you know, you're still getting an extra video out and you're showing people, because some people do love just like seeing time. For some artists, I love just watching their time lapses or seeing their process, how they made it. One person who's really good, like one of the people who inspired me very from the beginning to do YouTube art kind of stuff, was Mateusz Urbanowicz. And he's this really sick Polish dude who lives in Japan, and his background was like doing background art for a lot of projects, and he's worked on a lot of cool stuff like Weathering with You, Tenki no Ko, and he's done a lot of really cool stuff, but now he does mostly just freelance and for his own personal projects. He does a lot of like storefronts, Tokyo storefronts, and like cool, he has a really awesome, sick Miyazaki-esque like watercolor style. He's one of my top 3-4 favorite artists of all time, and he's just really cool. And he would make these kind of like process videos for some of the pieces that he was working on, and he's got a really nice voice, and like the way he narrates and stuff is really cool. So that was kind of an inspiration for some of the things I wanted to try. But I felt like the project or the piece needs to be a certain type of thing or a certain type of way, otherwise it just doesn't work as well. Like the Boy with the Broken Sword, I feel like if I really wanted to make it good, I would have needed to kind of break it down differently and record some like A-roll, like me talking to the camera, like in between certain parts of making it, or just at least having more footage of like actually making it. And it weighs you down, because you're like, on top of just like trying to finish this fucking comic, you gotta, you know, then first of all, you need to have this all in mind beforehand. Otherwise, you're really going to be scrambling and you're risking just having nothing to work with in the end. And that's also something you really have to keep in mind, is like, you have to basically script it out in your mind, at least like the major beats and like what the video is going to be. Otherwise, you know, you risk coming up with something that's shitty and not having the right materials, not having the right footage or enough footage, or just trying to like salvage things, which you never really want to do, right? So to put it all like kind of into perspective of like what I'm trying to say here is like, I've seen how I've been doing things the past like 10 months, and while yes, a lot of it has just been experimenting and kind of like thinking of like where to head in the next direction, like what direction should I go in next, what things should I try, should I be more like this, should I be more like that. I'm at a point now where I feel like I want to put the art first, because for the past 10 months I feel like I was putting the kind of YouTube and like trying to make videos like entertaining art and videos like that above me actually just like making the art, which is it's opposite of where I was before, where I would just do a project that I felt really passionate about every couple of months, and the video or like the YouTube kind of thing, or like the promoting myself on Instagram, because I wasn't doing YouTube before, but like, you know, promoting myself or trying to get more followers and stuff, that was all on the back burner. Like I wouldn't post to Instagram for like 2 weeks or like a month or 2 months at a time, because I just didn't care about it, right? And even in that time, you know, I was getting commissions from friends and I was doing things a little bit behind the scenes, and I was always getting better at art. So that's the one thing that like I was always happy about. But I flipped a switch right at the beginning of this year and decided like, okay, it's now or never. I really need to go all out and like try this art thing. And YouTube still just seems like a really great avenue, and I like to make videos and stuff, so it's still something I really want to do. But I'm just, for the next, I don't know, probably until the end of the year, I'd say I'm gonna, the next like 3 months or so, really just try and like prioritize all of the art stuff that I want to do, so that it frees me up from this like almost guilty feeling of like one way or the other of like, oh my god, shit, like I haven't actually made any like personal art stuff recently. Or the other guilty thing of like, oh fuck, I haven't put out a YouTube video recently. And trying to find a new way that if I can balance that while just prioritizing the personal stuff on top. But one way that I've like thought about doing it is to kind of compartmentalize what I'm like actually putting on YouTube. And part of it is like what I've seen through like Doodle Talk and stuff like that, right? Where I'm doing these Doodle Talks just partly because I feel like I have to. Once you get in the rhythm of something that you enjoy doing, and I mean that in a good way of like, I want to do these every week. I want to come here, sit in front of my fucking computer and talk to people for 30 minutes to an hour and a half about whatever. A lot of it is just loose, like kind of just like topics that I've kind of been thinking about lately, or every now and then like a pertinent topic that's been happening, like when we're talking about like Procreate, new app, and stuff that comes up in the art world, right? And oh my god, I almost lost my train of thought there. So like doing these Doodle Talks, I'm not actually drawing or doing anything. I'm not making art with these, right? But it's still something I really like to do. And I think because like the other art videos and stuff that I've made for in that vein have like not done super well, which is okay. Like, I'm not trying to be too precious with any of my babies, right? Like if the Pokemon What If videos don't blow up, then it's like, it's okay. That was still fun to make. Let's move on to the next thing, right? So one of the next things for me is probably just like trying to focus more on like doing more videos like the iPad versus the XP Pen tablet, because that's the one fucking video that's done really well. Like I'm sure I talked about this last time or whatever too, but it has a lot of views, right? And that was a fun video to make. And it's kind of nice because, like I was saying, like, as I'm trying, this next step is like trying to compartmentalize kind of like what the YouTube videos are going to be, and then like going really hard on the art stuff. And that way I don't feel guilty about not making art, is because like the art is placed first. So then I don't feel guilty if like the YouTube video isn't about like the art that I'm making, because I can always throw up a process or a time-lapse video of all the stuff that I'm making on my YouTube just as like extra videos, right? And you could be worried about like causing bloat within your channel, or like not niching down hard enough, or not like specifying your stuff. And I think maybe for larger artists or creators, that might be kind of a problem that you might have to think about. But especially if you're someone like me, where you're a little bit smaller and you don't exactly fit into like one niche or the other, I think it's something that you should really consider. Just kind of like not worrying too much about that, while staying hyper focused on like the things that you actually want to make, right? And so that's kind of the game plan. I'm gonna try and do, it's obviously like the YouTube videos are still gonna be art related. I'm just gonna try a vein of like more of that kind of like for example, the next video that I want to make is going to be like, what tools do I use to make art, digital and analog? So going over all the mediums that I work in, so like watercolor, Copic markers, just pen, like ink, and then touching on digital, like what I use for digital art, like the iPad and the XP Pen and my computer, maybe just like my scanner and the printer as well. So like, just touching on all that stuff. But that's not actual like art video, right? It's about art, but it's not an actual art video. And then I have some more ideas like that, like what I'm gonna try and make one about like showing the apps that I like to use for drawing, or the apps that I like to use for animation, or comparing like comparing Procreate and Clip Studio Paint because I'm familiar with those two apps. So which one is a better drawing experience for what type of person, right? So, because I have an interest in those kinds of things too, and I like watching those types of videos on YouTube, and I think it's compartmentalized and different enough from like the actual art stuff that I'm making to where I will like be able to reserve enough energy and determination to like make both of those things simultaneously, if that makes sense. So that was a really long-winded way to like kind of just keep everyone up to date on where I am. And hopefully if you're, you know, a smaller artist and you're struggling and you don't know exactly what to do, or if like you're an artist and you're like, you know, you want to kind of do something but you're not really sure what you should do, after this past, you know, 10 months of kind of like putting my personal stuff on the back burner, and I'm sure most people would tell you this, is like stick with what you're more passionate about and kind of don't let the personal projects take too far of a backseat. Otherwise you're probably just gonna get burnt out with whatever the other thing is that you're working on, and that's always a trap too, because then if you get too tired and burnt out with that, then it just compounds and you'll get burnt out and not have enough energy to actually work on your like personal projects and all of those things that you might really want to be doing. So be careful. It's a slippery slope. I think it's something you should try if you want to, you know, like if there's some kind of other thing that you can really be doing and it's different from your art stuff, and that's kind of what takes off. Like if you really want to lean into it, go ahead, that's totally fine. But if you find like me where you were like kind of finding that you were pulling yourself too far in two different directions, and you spread thin like a knife spreading, just I forgot the fucking Lord of the Rings quote when Bilbo's talking. He's like, I feel like a piece of butter spread too thin on a piece of bread. You don't want to feel like that, right? You want to feel like you just destroy the ring, you wake up, fucking Gandalf walks through the door and everyone's like, ah! And you know, you got your 12 hours and your 8 hours of sleep. That's what you want to feel like. And you're probably not going to get there if you are doing something that you can't really put your heart into. But you won't know if you can't put your heart into it unless you try. So that's why you got to try. And it took me about 10 months to figure that out. And the only thing I really figured out is like, that didn't work that great, so let me try this other thing. So who knows, right? But yeah, that's where I'm at. And kind of segueing that touched on what I want to actually talk about too today. The main topic is kind of like finding confidence in yourself, for yourself, your own art, and yourself as an artist, and how to kind of just like how to do things so that you can build up your own confidence and feel good about putting your art out on the internet. But before we jump into that, I do want to touch on one thing that kind of happened. Patreon released like a new kind of huge rebranding, and they released a lot of features within like a new app, or like a restructured app. I don't really know. I never really used I had the app on my phone. I didn't even remember. But because I still haven't made a Patreon. And it's still something I think about all the time. But like I said before when I talked about it, I do not want to release a Patreon unless I feel like I actually have enough stuff enough like art that I'm providing for people, or enough of like enough things that I am providing for people to where I would actually feel okay asking for money to support me. And go watch the Patreon episode if you want to see like my full thoughts into that, because I go into detail, but I'm not going to go into full detail here. Just know that it's I think Patreon is pretty cool, and it helps a lot of artists, and it revolutionized kind of the way that a lot of people can be independent artists and kind of, you know, a self just, you know, independent running machine or whatever, you know, like a self independent artist. I don't know what the fucking word I was thinking of there is, but yes, they released a bunch of stuff. I'm curious to see how it goes with a lot of people, and they're dropping like things to help like sell merch, things to sell like individual songs or like paintings, or like like individual digital assets as well. So say you have like a texture pack that you're a graphic designer, you have a texture pack that you want to sell on your own Patreon instead of selling it through something else. Like now it's all kind of your one-stop shop to get all that stuff. So a lot of features that seem pretty cool and seem like they're good. And interested to see how it goes. Still always considering doing Patreon. But one thing that was interesting is when I was looking up some of like the new stuff that was coming out, I did see this interesting YouTube video of someone, I forgot who it was, I'm sorry. I'll try and remember to put it up here so you guys can check it out if you're interested. And it was kind of like, it's like Patreon, the rise and fall of Patreon, which is always like, fuck. I don't know, man. If it's not like an actual like rise and fall situation, like, you know, that's just really clickbaity. But I watched the first like 5-10 minutes and I was like, okay, this is actually interesting. And so I watched the rest of it, and it's pretty good. It's hard when you're watching something like that, because you know the angle of the person is like kind of like a gotcha kind of thing, where it's like they're painting Patreon in a certain light, and even at the end they're like, I have a Patreon, you know, I love Patreon and I'm glad I've been able to use it, which is like good, I guess, to have that kind of like the disclaimer and like kind of the giving credit where credit is due. But it did go into some of like how Patreon was made and how much money they've accepted from like venture capitalist companies that have basically funded them from the beginning, which is always worrying. And I don't know a ton about that stuff, but I do know that like if you're a Silicon Valley company and you get backed by like venture capitalists, and they expect, you know, a lot of return on that money. I think they said it was like up to like 10 times is like the average amount of what they expect to return. So you're put in this situation where your company is like caught in this endless cycle of like, you have to grow exponentially, otherwise you cannot pay out like your shareholders essentially. And I don't think that's really the best model for a company that is supposed to be like the safe haven for independent artists and like being able to build a community, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm not sure what really the best way to have gone about that would be, because if you didn't do it that way, maybe Patreon would never have existed ever, you know. But there are some things that I didn't think about that this person pointed out. They're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And a lot of problems that people have had with Patreon for a long time. And it was just really interesting. And I'm not too well versed on the topic, so I don't want to really give any kind of like hot takes or any kind of opinion. But at the very least, it was an interesting video, and it gave a new perspective on Patreon. And it did seem kind of like, with all the new features and the rebranding and stuff like that, Patreon is kind of like, to a certain extent, like grasping at straws of like trying to build up and get bigger as a company. So I'm really interested to see how it goes, because I do like Jack Conte, one of the co-creators, the co-founders, and as a, you know, just as a musician and a creator himself, he does always seem to have like the artist's best interest in mind. But I don't know, man, when you have a huge company that's like been valuated at like $4 billion or something like that, like no matter how small your team is, when you get into something like that where you're dealing with that much money and that much responsibility, it's like it's out of your hands at a certain point, you know. I mean, it's always like the smaller to mid companies seem to be doing it the best. Like when you get too big, it's not even like, sometimes it's not even your fault anymore, you know. I'm always willing to give people a pass on certain things like that, because I don't know, man, like what would you do every time you think of a company that's failing, or like a company that's just gotten big and sold out? Like I always try and ask myself, like, what would you really do? And I'll tell you, like, some of the times I probably would sell out and just like take some money and go fucking just like live outside of that working environment, and just like fucking, you know, Jeff Bezos that shit, and just have a badass life, you know, work on whatever you want to after that. Because it's hard not to say that, right? Especially as someone who doesn't make a lot of money and is like pretty much always kind of like in and out of like struggling financially. You have to think about certain things like that when it comes to like owning or running a company. And like, I don't know, everyone's entitled to an opinion about these types of situations, these types of companies, these CEOs. And it's just hard. It's pretty rare to see like a CFO, CEO who like actually seems to care about people, because that's when I start to give less and less of a fuck of like, you know, if the person was a shitty person and didn't care about like the actual thing that they're doing, or the company, or the people in the company, or the people that were using the service, then yeah, of course it's like, well, fuck them, I don't really care. But it's hard sometimes, because you know, it's never truly black and white. So it made me think a little bit, and I'm curious to see how it goes. I would have a lot better insight if I actually used Patreon, but I'm sorry, I don't currently use it at the moment. But you know, I think someday I would like to try it out. So if I can figure out something that's sustainable for something that I would feel comfortable making Patreon for, instead of that's not just literally me just like, hey, I'm making art, give me $1 a month. Like, I want to have at least something a little bit more than that. Doesn't have to be much, but my thing I keep telling myself is like, it's got to be more than that. I want to be able to provide at least something, right? Even if it's really minimal or small, but you still have to build the infrastructure, and you still have to do those things. Like, it becomes extra work that you have to do to provide those to your patrons and the people supporting you, you know? So that's all I have for my art stuff and kind of any kind of like art recent kind of news. And let's jump back into the main topic. Okay, so what I want to talk about just a little bit is having confidence in yourself with your art and as an artist, right? And a few things that I've noticed throughout my years of being an artist, and maybe a few tips that I have, some things like, because I was thinking about it, and I do have a few things that like experiences that I've had that really helped me kind of like flip switches and kind of like think about things in a new perspective, to where it really helped me out a lot. And one of the things that I want to talk about is like how I got to the point where like, I'm not the most confident person, I'm not the most confident artist, but there are certain mindsets that you can have and certain perspectives that you can use to like kind of help convince yourself that it's like, to me it all boils down to like you might as well, right? And what do I mean by that is like we're all gonna die someday, so you might as well like give it your best shot and like try really hard, right? Now, easier said than done. When you post something online and somebody says it looks like dog shit, or comments on a YouTube video out of fucking nowhere and just like bashes you or something, like, it doesn't feel good, man. And you don't just go like, ha ha ha, no, I'm gonna keep making art. Like, it's hard, right? It's hard, especially in this day and age where everyone's on social media and all this shit's happening, right? And you know, someone in fucking halfway across the world can just bash the shit out of you anonymously and get away with it, right? So that being said, though, there are certain things that you can do to help like kind of build confidence and put yourself in the right mindset to make the art that you really want to make, and have some confidence with it and an ability to feel okay like putting it out there in the world. And I want to turn the clock back a little bit, because one of the things that really helped me with this is first of all, it helps if you have a nice friend group, a nice support group. If you're surrounded by other like-minded artists and people that are kind of encouraging you, not only are you going to get better at art or whatever you're doing, it just kind of creates a nice nurturing environment, right? This is one of the nice things about going to university or college that I actually do think is a huge positive, that a lot of people, I'm on the side where like I think too, like, it's not necessary anymore. And if you really have if you really know what you want to do, or like you can think about it in a you figure it out in a different way, or learn online or whatever, it's not necessary to go to 4-year uni or college or whatever, right? But sometimes the experiences and the people and the communities you can build there are invaluable, and it's gonna hopefully, you know, give you a lot of life experiences. It's gonna turn you into almost an adult, right? It's funny, you think about it, like, you're pretty old like in one perspective, you're pretty old when you graduate. Between like, I don't know, some people graduate really early though. So I guess like I went to community college for like a year and a half that kind of like added a year essentially. So I graduated in like 4.5 years of college or whatever, I think. But you're graduating between like 22, 24 years old, just for like a lot of general people for your like associate's degree. So you think you're pretty old, but you realize like you don't know shit and you're still pretty young. But besides that, so like having a friend group is really nice. And one thing that I was talking about that kind of college years is because high school, college, middle through high school had a great friend group. And then one of the things that I think furthered me having a little bit more confidence is playing music live in front of people. And this is the example that I really wanted to get to, is because it's so fucking scary playing music in front of people, especially like I've played not a lot, but I've played a few solo shows. And, if you don't have a band behind you, it's really hard. I'm sure any stand-up comedian could probably like describe to you the fear of like going on stage and knowing that it's just you and the microphone, and like I can relate to it. I know how they feel. It's even if you have an instrument, like I would go play guitar and sing, and you have at least that to kind of like hide behind, right? Comedians don't even have that. So, but the thing that I had to do is, because I believe like the first or second time I was really nervous, but had some friends there, and like it's something you just gotta build experience and you get better at and you get kind of used to, right? But the one thing I remember, I'm pretty sure it was I was playing a show at Haley's in Denton, Redwood Willow, 2014 or something. And I was thinking to myself, because I was feeling a little bit better about it, right? But I was also like, man, you shouldn't be nervous because no one wants you to be nervous. You should try and do the best you can do because that's what everybody wants to see. And I know that might sound stupid or like, yeah, of course, dude. But when you can like internalize that a little bit deeper into yourself, it really creates this situation where you're like, well, I might as well just do really well and just try my best, I might as well like not be afraid to like sing full voice and like play confidently, right? Because if you don't do that, you already know it's gonna suck. Like, it's gonna be like, yeah, people might like clap for you or whatever, like some people might kind of enjoy it, but it's like you're never gonna reach the next level by being too timid about something. And I just kind of started internalizing that within myself, especially around that time. And this goes for sports as well too, because I grew up playing sports and soccer mostly. And when you're on a team, there's a little bit of that. Like I said, there's something you can kind of hide behind. Like you lose as a team, you win as a team, but there's always individual efforts being made. And you have to learn, like as a kid, hopefully your team or your family will be as like good enough of people to tell you, like your coach is going to tell you, if your coach is any good, like when you have a bad game, or like, hey, you're playing like shit, like you need to fucking pick it up, or you need to change this or change that. Like hearing your own family kind of like roast you in the car on the way home from a Saturday soccer game is like, it can hurt, man. I don't know. I had 3 other siblings too. I feel like I grew up in a household where we were all bashing the shit out of each other all the time. So you develop a little bit of a thick skin. So these are these kind of things that like, but if you've never had those experiences, you didn't have a family like that, you never played sports, you just started playing music, you have a show, or like, you want to make a web comic, but you're too afraid to put it online, right? Here's the thing is like, my advice to anyone like that, or, somewhere in the middle or whatever, you like I was saying, like you have a decision to make. It's all here in your head of like whether or not you fail or succeed or do a good job or like perform well. That's besides the point. That is like kind of the after effect of what's going to happen after you decide what you want to do. So the very first step that you have is like, first there's like preparation, obviously, preparing, studying, practicing. Those kinds of things are super important, but not really what I want to talk about right now. So let's say you've done all of that stuff, right? Like, you know that if there was no one out in the crowd, you could go up on that stage and like fucking bust out a sick ass song. Like, you could pull some tears with a folk song or something, right? So why would you, like, you know, ever let something get in the way of that, like stage fright or being nervous or whatever? Like, there's things you can't control. I know, like shaking hands when you get up there and you're like, oh my god, and like the quivering voice and stuff like that, right? There are things that you just gotta chalk up to, like, you need to get some experience and reps in. Like, that's obvious. I'm not trying to, no one can just like knock it out of the park, like starting from zero. I'm not trying to say that at all. But when you get to a certain point, there is a decision that you get to make in your head where you're like, I want to put out the best thing that I can. So what's the point in not like doing my best and not preparing and not making sure that I can do it the best that I can, right? And I know that might sound kind of vague, but that's kind of the best way that I can put it. And it really works though. It really, really works, because I did that before that Haley show in Denton. And I remember, I mean, I'm sure it was okay. Like, it wasn't the best show in the world. But I remember I had a lot more confidence. And I had a lot more confidence after that. That's the other thing too, is like, fuck, man. Go play music live on stage in front of people, or go do an open mic night at a comedy show, or like go do some fucking slam poetry, bro. I don't care what it is. If you're an artist or someone creative like that, and you want to just like, first of all, it's really fun. Like, the adrenaline and the dopamine is awesome. But if you want to just kind of get that like perspective changer, go do something like that. Or if you've ever done theater or acting or something like that, you would know what it's like too, maybe even more so, right? And once you've done it, you build up this kind of confidence in yourself that it's like, oh, this is the thing that needs to get done, so let's just get it done. Instead of like, oh my god, I'm so nervous, what if I fuck up or whatever. It's like, no, don't worry about that. Have the confidence that it's like you create this perspective of like, I would like to make this and I would like to present it to people, so that's what I'm going to do, right? Instead of just like meandering the whole time or worrying about what could go wrong. And it applies, like, so most of that's for like performing live and stuff like that, right, too. But I really wanted to bring that situation up because that's kind of what like kicked my confidence into like gave me the confidence to do things. And like the other thing is too, is like I was always recording music. More than playing live, I was always recording music, and sometimes recording some pretty like personal kind of vulnerable music and talking about things in my life. And like, fuck, man, that's scary as shit too, like putting that kind of stuff out. And the only way you get confidence in that kind of stuff is, you know, like I said, like having the right mindset before and while you're creating it. So this is how I want to segue this into like the actual like more drawing or like social media presence or putting things out online, right? Is you have to take this kind of like overall feeling that and mindset of like, I want to put my best foot forward. I want to make the best thing possible, and I am determined not to let any outside factors or things that I can control. I'm determined to not let any of those affect how the end product turns out, right? And once you have that kind of mindset, you can do your best work and you can feel free and you can have fun and you can do things, right? And here's the thing too, is like, until you release it, until you put it out into the world, no one's ever gonna see it, right? So there's like kind of a pros and cons to that. One thing is like, you know, it's not live performance. Like if you make a song and you finish it and you're like, man, that is some doo-doo, like that is terrible, I don't want to put that out, you always have the option not to release it, right? But if you're someone who's never really released anything or put anything out, I think you should, even if it is really kind of doo-doo, because that is in turn the getting the reps in, right? There's another facet to this where it's like you have to get used to putting yourself out there on the internet and taking whatever kind of backlash or positive comments or, bad comments or whatever it's going to be, right? You have to get used to dealing with these kinds of things. And if you start from a place of like already being super hyper nervous or worried about what people are going to say or what people are going to think, it's going to be even harder for you to kind of get used to it and get yourself into a situation where you're going to be okay, like posting all that stuff. So that's why I wanted to start with like kind of that story of like how I started building up my confidence, because it's funny because I can look back to I started drawing seriously again back in like 2016ish, and because I always drew like as a kid and took it seriously a little bit when I was younger, but and even now I'm no fucking master artist, but I've gotten a lot better, right? And I now have some confidence in my own abilities. And it's funny because I look back on like, some of those earlier 2016 to like 2020, 2021 even, really. And you see all the shit stuff that you made and you post it online and you're like, oh my God, who the fuck let me post that? who let me do that? Like who left me up? Who let me do that? Like, that's crazy. But it's okay, because that's what you gotta do, man. You gotta post some of the shit. You gotta get started. You gotta get the ball rolling. And then hopefully with enough practice and you start to get better and you find yourself in a position where you're proud enough to stand up for your own work. Because I would never stand up for some of my earlier work. You don't have to, you don't need to, because you're already better now. And it's like, oh, that was past stuff. And that's kind of a slippery slope too. So you got to be careful, and you should always you should work yourself up to being able to be proud of things that you're making, no matter what level you're at, right? But it does feel good when you get to a certain point where you're like, you know what, this isn't that bad. And once you can kind of like look at some of your work, probably not all of it, but some of it, and be like, I actually am proud of that. I worked really hard on that. I think it turned out okay, while still being really critical, obviously. That's a good place to be. And it's just hard to work your way up there. But if you don't start, you'll never get there. So that's kind of the thing. And one of the points I wanted to make too is like, start it while you're still small, and you probably don't have a lot of followers and stuff. And I know it may be even harder to think about it like that. We're like, well, no one's gonna fucking follow me if my shit sucks. It's like, it's okay, because you really want to get that stuff out of the way while you still don't have a lot of people following you, right? And that's kind of that is like one of the nice things, I guess, is not too many people will be paying attention to you or like taking you that seriously, which in this case would actually be a positive. But once you get a little bit bigger, and if you get a lot of followers, or you have a presence online or a lot of fans or whatever, they're gonna notice and scrutinize you for things, right? So you want to learn and get better and get those like that XP out of the way, those experiences out of the way as early as you can, and while you're still developing at like a fast pace, right? So don't worry too much about that if you're someone who's worried about that kind of thing, because it's like, man, everyone, you can listen. I think every artist would tell you like, yeah, my shit sucked when I was like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. Like, dude, everyone has to go through it. So it's kind of one thing where it's like, bite the bullet and you got to do it. But I think that advice only goes so far, right? It's really easy to sit here and tell people like, you just gotta grind really hard for 5 to 10 years and you'll be fine, dude. Like, I don't want to just sit here and say that. That's why I wanted to give some more like personal experiences and personal stories of like how I was able to just kind of kind of change the perception in my mind, because it really is, man, it really is like this thing of like, if you can stop and you can just look at the world and you see there's 7-8 billion people, right? Not everyone's out to get you. There are gonna be people who like your stuff. There are gonna be people who support you. And as long as you're not a jerk, as long as you're not a fucking asshole to everyone, as long as you're a good person and try your hardest, if you do the right things with a little bit of luck, you're gonna find at least a small community or a small amount of people who would like to see, listen to, watch your stuff, right? And once you can kind of just like put aside your ego, put aside all of the kind of outside influences, all the worry, all the anxiety, all the nervousness, and just look at the thing as like, if you really, really, really want to make that thing, if you're determined to make it, if you're as passionate as you think or say you are, and you want to make that thing no matter what, then you owe that thing, that project, that song, that art piece, you owe it to that thing to give it your all and try your hardest and put out into the world like the best version of that thing that you can do. You owe it to that thing, because otherwise you're just cutting corners, or you're just not providing the best work that you can provide. And like I said before, like, people want to see the best version of something. No one would want to go to a music show and like see someone like sing like terribly and just have it be a shit show, right? They want to go there and they want to have a blast. They want to see and listen to some awesome music. So that's how it goes across the board for all of these art things, you know, art related things. So at the end of the day, you just have to sit there and be like, okay, well, why not? Why not just try my hardest? And why not just put everything that I can into this and put out the best version that I can? And because the answer, there is no argument to be made as to why you shouldn't. You know, at the end of the day, when you take away all those like small variables and all those other things, those outside influences that would just like trick you into not wanting to do that thing, there is no proper argument to say that you shouldn't just do the best thing that you can do. So if you can find your own way to kind of internalize that, and you know, I had to figure out little tricks, little things to tell myself, and little ways of looking at the world and at people and at art in general, in order to convince myself and to finally build up some confidence and to feel confident in myself as an artist, and feel confident about my art enough to post it on social media and put it out in the world, you know, which is no easy thing to do. So even if you're just doing that in the slightest, like, you're already doing something that a ton of people would be way too scared to do, you know? So it's like, consider that a win in itself, right? But if you really want to take it to the next level, take it to the next level, bro. If you really want to take it to the next level, you gotta just let go of all those things holding you back. Let go of your ego and just really give it your all and try it, because that's it. That's all there is. If you want to make art, if you want to do something, you know, that's it, bro. That's it. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. Like, if you give it your best shot, then it really is like, that's all you can do. And there's no need to worry about all the negative stuff surrounding anything like that. So I think that's a pretty good place to end it, without like just continuing rambling about that. But I really do mean it. I really do mean it. So if you're someone who has struggled with that, or you're considering starting something or posting work that you've never posted before, fucking do it. And just do these find your own little way, use my method, or find your own little way of like convincing yourself to you know, that it's all going to be okay, and that you really should just have the confidence in yourself to do it. So I hope that helped. That was just something I was thinking of, and I've had that kind of personal story and that way of thinking about like building confidence in yourself for a while. And I thought it was you know, somewhat unique, so I thought I'd share it on today's episode. But as always, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.